Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard, along with Bill Stierle. And Bill, you intrigued me at the end of our last episode with this idea of truth and community. And I'm very excited to talk about that today.
Tom, this one is the one that's the most challenging based in our current messaging in the field of time. From the primary slogan that President Trump got elected on was "Make America Great Again." And the challenge with the phrase "Make America Great Again" is that it allows the listener to paintbrush anything they believe of what great looks like and what America looks like, and cultivate that in their mind, and then project it. He's going to get me the thing that's in my mind. He's going to get me the thing that's in my mind. The problem is that the America of the 1950s, post World War II, which had many, many social constructs in it, not socialism, but social constructs, trying to get the living wage to look to build the middle class so that the tax base could cover and carry and move the nation forward from a time of war, from a time of deficit spending during war, that the tax base could cover that choice and to do that. So what came out of the 1950s was an image of community, people working together and people being able to afford being in the community and having enough money to do and be active in the world. My dad, who was a construction person, maintenance person, was able to buy a boat and take us all fishing, was able to raise 8 kids on $25,000 a year.
Wow.
Let's just slow that sucker down.
Yeah.
Now, was there a struggle with that when his kids wanted to go to college? The answer would be yes. But then there were the grants available, the low-cost grants, to allow me to go to get started, and they have the ability to pay them back, because the money ratio of money coming in to money going out was doable. You know, I mean, most of the senators and congresspeople, them or, you know, their parents, they went to college when it was $3,000 a year to try to find that. So they're not in the position of 15, 20, 25,000, 50,000 a year. You know, and what it forces people to do, going like, gosh, to go to a good school, I better make a lot of money. Well, I don't want to pay taxes, so I could have enough money to spend and take forward. So there's a bunch of challenges here in the current environment that we've got to be present to, that the community that we had is not available the way it used to be. You know, so once you start to lose the community, we start to lose truth, which is really unsettling.
Well, and that's really was the thing that sparked, my interest in sort of bringing this up last time. Was I saw an interview with Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor, and she pointed this out about the current dynamic in take, the Senate floor. When you see
Right.
somebody at the podium on C-SPAN speaking, you see a lot of empty seats around them, and you realize they're just speaking to the camera. They're not speaking to each other as senators, as part of a community. That was really illuminating to me.
Yeah, if you're out of the room and you're not listening to the person, you don't get the molecules of emotion translated between the words that they're speaking. I feel inspired about the thing I'm talking about, and I'm so inspired, I'm going to inspire you to reconsider your belief. Well, not if you're not in the room, you're not. You're just a Democrat. You're just a Republican
Yeah, what could you say that would be of interest to
to
me?
me, because now you're in the box that I've got you in.
And when you look, and believe me, I understand that it's a movie and a dramatization, but if you look at a movie like Lincoln, Steven Spielberg's Lincoln, and you see the scenes of, the Senate debating the 17th Amendment to the Constitution, everybody's in the room, they're all talking about it. It actually is a little more reminiscent of scenes of the English Parliament, if you've seen any video lately over their Brexit debates and things. And it seems to be this very loud, animated debate. People, whoever's speaking at the podium, is being interrupted with loud reactions from, one side or the other in the room. And it seems, on the one hand, maybe a little bit disorderly, but on the other, everybody's in the room and listening.
They're on the room and listening, and they're trying to think. Now, this their language choice, and it's so funny that I'm picking on it because it's English, and I'm picking on the English language choices. Their willingness, unconsciously, to try to make a point from an adversarial position is costing them dearly.
Wow.
It's costing them, and they're not able to, as they're trying to win a point, they're not really trying to navigate what's best. Um, the the whole idea of allowing a populace to vote on something that they have very little knowledge or information, as one English person would put it, why am I voting on this thing I know nothing about, to be in Brexit or to be out of it? I don't know all the issues. Why am I voting on that? That's why, the way she said it was clearly, that's why I voted for this person to go into office, because I thought they could figure this out and vote for this very complex thing that I don't have time to think about. If I vote this way, a new wall puts up between Northern Ireland, and it's like a new wall goes up. Why does a new wall go up? You know, and a hard border goes up. Well, wait a minute, we just started dying over the hard war. Many people died over that one. We're not doing that again. So very, very challenging, because do you want people that don't know anything about an issue voting on something? So that means the community has to trust the person that they're voting into office. Well, not if that person you're voting for has been influenced by money because they had to campaign to the highest donor. They're voting for what the donor wants them to do. They're not voting for what the general community would like them to do. So there's the loss because there's a separation of this identity, and the identity is causing a big cause of that, separation. And that's one of the big challenges, is that the community is losing truth because it's losing trust in that these leaders are going to have the best interest of the larger community, the nation of the USA, to have it. Will the USA go the path, the way Europe is in different countries. Will it be the southern states of? Will it be the northeastern states of? Will it be the western states of the United States? And those states will just start doing coalitions together and go like, well, screw the rest of those folks. All right, you're stuck over here. Yeah, we're the United States, but basically we have our coalition and we're not going to do anything that's going to harm these 7 states. Is that where we're going? And when we go down the path of this, separate identity versus collective identity called the United States, it plays right into the struggles that Europe struggles with. Yes, we are different countries, but we're still human beings that can collaborate and cooperate together, and it serves our interests to stay as a group here. It does not serve our interests to be apart from each other. And this is what the people of England didn't know that they voted for, to get out. They had no idea that we're voting for that drastic of a piece. They were just saying, no, I want our old currency bank. I don't want the euro. I want the queen on it's like,
Well,
really.
and I'm sure there was this idea of this empire that the United Kingdom once was, with all the imperialism and the colonies in Hong Kong, and obviously you have Australia, South Africa, India. I mean, the UK was a powerful force a long time ago, and I think it's very interesting and probably disheartening how this whole Brexit crisis has illuminated just how small the United Kingdom is in the world order, right?
That's right. And how little influence they have left. Now, one of the biggest magical things that that England, the UK contributed to the world during that period of dominance was structure, was order, was following the rules. They contributed that. Here's how to do things in a systematic way. Everything is not up for grabs all the time. We want to create stability and certainty, and here is what that stability and certainty look like. And because of that mindset, that very structured, and we've talked about this organized, sequential, detailed structure, it allowed that tiny island nation to dominate the world for a lot of years. But the structure breaks down if it doesn't have a relationship with the people. And the structure breaks down if it doesn't have a relationship with creativity. It just breaks down. There's no new creative ideas. So what the structure has to do is, wait a minute, let's go back to what we're familiar with, which is more structure. It's like, no, not in the modern world. You can't do that, because the new way of doing things is collaboration and cooperation, which is fundamental to survival. If you don't do collaboration and cooperation, you perish, literally. Now, it's very, very unsettling. Okay, so let's go after this community belief from a species standpoint, unless you and I get disturbed about truth. Okay, this is very disturbing about truth. Very, very disturbing because this is a truth podcast, right? All right. So Tom, have you ever, and we might have done this before, but it's too much fun to do it now that we don't do it now. Tom, have you ever bought a book and only read like the first 4 chapters?
Oh, I'm sure.
And then you want to get back to the book, but other things, or another book or something else, or another shiny lure, knock that reading out of your consciousness. And you only got so far. And you learned a couple things in chapter 1, 2, and 3, or even chapter 4. There was an important line that showed up there and says, oh, this is really an important belief and a really important line. And even other people said, did you read that book? Oh, yes, I remember this line from that book. Right. I never got to the damn end of the book, but I got to the line. Okay. All right. So when I say the book, Charles Darwin, Origin of Species,
Yes.
what would be a line of that book that you would say, gosh, this is in that book?
Yeah.
What does he say?
Natural selection.
Natural selection, which means
Survival of the fittest.
right, chapter 4. Congratulations. I swear to God, that's what's so upsetting.
Yeah.
Now, chapter 10 or 9, I think. Chapter 9, it's upon further consideration, what I've come to realize that the species that go extinct are the ones that are not co-evolving together in a collaborative, cooperative way. Now, I'm summarizing it just a tad bit to make the point. But he says if one species gobbles up all the natural resources in an environment, they go extinct. They push themselves to the brink because they've dominated and taken over all the natural resources in that area, and they go extinct. They are not co-evolving together. This finch is evolving at the same time as this cactus is. As the finch figures out how to feed off the cactus feeds how to figure out to put more spines up so that the finch doesn't get at the cactus as much. But then the finch changes the size of its beak. Then the cactus changes the size of its thorns.
So
that is collaboration and cooperation between species in a community, where each community member is contributing and protecting itself in a collaborative way. If a species doesn't do that, it can crash the system.
So very interesting. So bring this back to the loss of community, how, the two sides of our government representatives are not cooperating and collaborating to move us forward as a country. Forget the whole reality of how, make America great again at the expense of the world is another level of not cooperating and collaborating, right?
That's right.
But let's just stay domestically for the moment, because I think our problems start here.
We're cultivating it. We're nurturing us versus them. We're nurturing those people versus us people. It's like, no, they're people. And yes, there's outliers that take advantage of the system, but to amplify the outlier that's taking advantage of the system, instead of looking at the outlier going like, yeah, interesting point of view, feel free to live your life with that point of view, but we're not doing Nazism again. We're just not doing that. It's not really a particularly good idea to do, white nationalists. It's not. A nation tried that one time and then that went to its extreme. And that extreme was the elimination of and killing of certain species. Yeah, we're not doing that one. We're not doing that one. We already did that one. We're not doing that one again.
Right.
And so very, 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 very challenging. Very, very challenging. Because the community is not in acceptance or inclusion, it's in exclusion. It's us versus them. Because when somebody's different than you, you got to do some work as a human being called listen and then adjust and consider a belief shift. You got to do those two things. You got to listen, which people stink at, and then adjust your belief system to say, gosh, why is this person thinking this way? What's really actively causing this person to be in action about this point of view, and go like, oh, no wonder they came from this area. They came from this school. They came from this family. They were, this really bad thing happened to them when they were a child, and it's influencing their belief,
Yeah.
So really, really very difficult.
Gosh, Bill, doesn't it feel like our current political system and government system here in the United States is very much being navigated through an us versus them narrative and or belief structure, it seems. I mean, there's really very little cooperation and collaboration going on.
Yeah, we're not going to vote for it. We're not going to vote for it on the Senate floor. We're not voting for it on the Senate floor.
We're not even going to debate it.
We're not even going to debate it on the Senate floor. It'll never reach the floor. It'll never reach the floor.
I mean, they're basically, Mitch McConnell's has been just outright saying, we're not going to debate or bring anything to the floor of the Senate unless the president is on record saying he is going to sign it into law. I thought the whole point of the Senate was to debate ideas, craft laws. And I understand the embarrassment that can happen if, you spend all this time debating and passing a bill that then the president won't sign. Okay. But my goodness, it's like, what is your job there in the Senate? Just to rubber stamp things?
Well, just to make, I don't want to break from the coalition, because right now I have an autocrat. I mean, in Mitch McConnell's mind, he is a little stuck because he has an autocrat in the office that wants to be known for, and what Mitch is not savvy enough to do is being able to position it so Trump could take credit for something, and even when it's positioned where Trump can take credit for something, Trump will turn it on him in a dime just to get media attention and media support. See, Trump's done a wonderful job of tricking the giant to carry him.
Yes, I agree.
And the media giant keeps carrying his messaging instead of setting him down to get him to walk there. If they just set his messages down, he would have to walk instead of ride on their backs. So, for example, right now the Joe Biden and Joe Biden's son thing is in the news, and there's no evidence of this, but there is a thing called an associative messaging, that here's what this person said or did, here's the son, and there are a couple relationships that are close to those things, and it's enough to make doubt show up. See, something doesn't have to be true or false to cause doubt to show up. It just has to be said. That's how truth gets hijacked. So if I want to purchase truth, then all I've got to do is saying, Hillary doesn't have stamina. She gets sick. Look at those pictures. You saw the pictures of her falling down? Yeah, she stumbled once because she was had the flu and tried to white knuckle something. See, she's calling you a deplorable. No, she repeated back what somebody said to her. And she smiled a little bit and goes like, yeah, they're deplorables. It's like, and now they got their sound bite to work off of. So
sure, and I agree. Wow, that's really illuminating and helpful, Bill, to show how all you have to do is inject doubt into something, into a belief, to purchase truth. It doesn't mean that what you want to do or you're saying is in fact true. You're raising the potential and I guess planting the seeds of doubt. The irony of what you were saying about the president, casting sort of this cloud over, Joe Biden and his son Hunter with the whole Ukraine thing, is he's saying, hey, he's injecting doubt. He's saying, hey, something wasn't right about that. The irony is he's completely ignoring the reality that he is behaving like a king, exerting power over, appointed positions in the government. Some of them are cabinet members, and I don't remember how the inspector general is, but they're not following the law.
They're not following the law,
but
they're doing the same thing they're doing the same thing that England did, that we got so pissed about it. The English and the nobles did, because that's a form of oligarchy, right? A monarchy, right. But it's a monarchy with nobles being the oligarch, and that's right. The same thing that Russia has right now is Russia has control of the church inside Russia. They have control of the church.
Right.
Putin does. He builds relationship, and they get to play in their space as a form of an oligarch, and he gets to play in his space. And then he's got all these different 12 or 13 or 15 people that he has running the major, industries inside the country, which has, by the way, I learned, and I don't, the full truth of this is less of a GDP than Italy does.
The whole country has less of a GDP
than Italy.
Wow.
See, it's like, oh, wait a minute, that's not a very big economy that is allowing to be wielding so much power. It's like that's not a big economy. It's and because of the way it's structured, it makes people who starve for respect, recognition, acknowledgement, that have low self-worth want to emulate that. And Trump is one of those characters that just walks into that.
Oh, he emulates it because he loves it and he respects it. He wants to be treated like a king, and he doesn't. I think he, to a degree, doesn't really understand all the laws of the United States. I mean, who really would understand all of them? Or he just doesn't care about them. He wants to do it his way.
Yeah.
Which is why we're at this assault on truth and the rule of law with regard to this whistleblower complaint. But the interesting thing is the Democrats are sitting in this position of oversight with the House committees, and they're arguing the facts. They're saying, hey, the law says you need to turn this over, and if you don't turn it over, we're going to go to the courts. And this is a slow process where if they would just take a page out of the president's book and inject doubt into the president's integrity, motives, well, if there was really nothing to this phone call, why wouldn't he just share about, what was discussed?
Yeah. Wow. I really appreciate the president meeting that. It might sound like this, so I'll give them the talking point right now.
Awesome.
Wow. So, and this could be any of them, Adam Schiff or Nadler or Pelosi could clean up with this narrative. Listen, right now I'm feeling a little doubtful and skeptical right now, and I guess the president could meet the need for privacy, but it seems like he's not really interested in truth at this point. I'm interested in truth. Great. So what truth would look like to us is for us to see the thing so that we can clear his name. I'm really interested in clearing his name as quickly as possible so we could get back to the work of the people. Would the president be willing to allow us to clear his name? Because we're really interested in clearing his name right now. Is there anything we can say or do to get him to clear his name? Because we'd really like to clear his name right now. Because we'd really like to restore respect to the president by clearing his name. And what clearing his name would look like is looking at this. The need for truth is really important to us. And it's really important for us to clear his name because we all want to work together, right?
Boy, the cliche there is clearly clear his name, which in reality is dragging his name through the mud without dragging it through the mud, isn't it?
That's correct. I'm going to associate the need for truth not being met
with his name,
with his name and strategy. So, and it's there's no manipulation here. There's no trick when you are fighting for a specific need. It's a manipulation when you set an untruth next to a statement.
Oh,
that
means
yes.
Like I can't release my taxes because they're under audit. Would that be a good untruth that you're associating with something?
Right. It's like, well, we check for the IRS and now notice the fact doesn't help us here. We checked with the IRS and they said it's not true.
It's true. It hasn't helped us at all, has it?
No, it's not true, but it doesn't help. Instead of a very nice, compassionate empathy, it sounds like the president is interested in meeting the need for privacy ahead of the need for truth. And privacy is such an important need for us to have as Americans. We want to make sure that everybody has privacy. For the president, though, the need for truth looks like we have someone's information to hold the highest office so that we have the level of truth and trust we would like for that. I guess the president is not as interested in truth and trust as he is in privacy. If he was interested in truth and trust, then I guess he would disclose those things or maybe promise those things before the next election and not deliver them at that time. I guess he's probably not going to. He's going to go for the need for privacy. See, you could beat him at his narrative because you already know what his narrative is going to be. He's probably going to stay after privacy right now. I don't think he's really going to do that. You know what? The president really, you know what? Actually, there's, gosh, do you know when people say things and then they don't do things? Gosh, that's the need for integrity. You know what integrity would look like? Integrity from a president is when they say something, they follow through on the thing they say. And sometimes the president might get stuck with that, and we could appreciate that. But it seems like the president doesn't meet the need for integrity very often. You know, if Trump were to do integrity, what that would look like to us is,
Yeah.
now I've got Trump sitting next to integrity, and now he can't meet his needs for privacy over integrity because there's a problem here.
Yeah.
And the sowing doubt by saying, I don't know what a vice president's son talked to. And we all know that Ukraine has problems with, what do you call it?
Corruption.
Corruption. Thank you.
Yeah.
And therefore, just because Joe Biden's son was in there and talking to somebody about something somewhere, and there's no evidence of any of that, the result is that the feeling of doubt and skepticism is associated with Biden. It's not associated with Trump.
All right. Well, let me see if I could twist you into a pretzel a little more, Bill, and help us with something. Because have you heard the president say how the media asking about, having the whistleblower complaint turned over to Congress or publishing the transcript, basically, bringing it out for the world to see, he's labeled that as just another witch hunt. The president has labeled this as another witch hunt. And so somehow that's a witch hunt, not the president trying to dig up dirt on the Bidens from a foreign nation. So how would you flip that script?
Well, it sounds like the president has a belief that this is another witch hunt. Notice I'm putting his message first, and that's called meeting the need for being heard. I want to make sure his message is being heard and it's coming out of my mouth, even though I don't agree with the message.
Right.
I want to make sure I'm being heard, because he'll just scream back, "You're not hearing me." It says, "Oh, Mr. President, we heard you. You have the thought that it's a witch hunt. Did we hear that correct?" He says, "Yes." Okay. So you would like truth about this. Is that what you like? Yes. Okay. So you would like truth about the Bidens next to the truth about you talking to the Ukrainian. Huh? See, now all of a sudden you're doing it at the right level. You're matching apples and apples.
Right.
But you don't get there by saying, "There the president goes again. Oh, look what he's doing." It's like you can't get there from here. You've got to use our language. The language is a vibration for a human being that keeps us alive. When we stop thinking, Tom, we die. When we start to fall apart, when our language starts to fall apart, human beings don't last very long. I mean, we really struggle there. Even people that are in the coma, they still have a frequency. They still have a brainwave, and go like, "Well, we're keeping this thing alive because we're noticing this brainwave thing here. There must be something going on in there."
Sure.
And the person's holding on to something. And we're keeping them alive because they're holding on to something. And we're saying, gosh, we value life that much that we're keeping this person in a coma alive because there's some frequency running in that brain that we don't know what it is. And it seems like it's this. And when it's
Yeah, hopefully they find their way back. Yeah.
hopefully they're finding their way back. And some people do.
Yeah.
Some people find they wake up 3 years. I've been sleeping here 3 years of Kona. Yeah, it seems like your body needed that time to reboot. Well, what did it reboot? I don't know where I was, but sure, I'm back now. Something was knocking him out. The accident, the thought of death, the possibility of death, the certainty, and they were on the margin, and they just stayed there in limbo for 3 years after our car wreck. Yeah. The body does all kinds of different things. I can't remember where this little factoid showed up. It has to do with plane wrecks. Sometimes when a plane crashes, all the people, when they show up, they're have died on the plane crash, right?
Right.
And then the medical examiners, they do the post of all the people that had died.
Sure.
Some of the people, they're going like, this body doesn't have any injuries on it. Why did it die? There's
Really?
no broken bones. There's nothing that hit their head. Why is this person dead? What they are speculating about, and what there's a thought about is that their body dies before the plane hits the ground because it thinks it's going to die. Oh my God, we're about ready to crash. The body shuts off. Why? Because it doesn't want to feel the pain of dying.
Wow.
And then it dies. People can, there's our thoughts and our frequencies can get hijacked by our own body. So it's easy for the truth to get hijacked from easy. It takes a little work to get hijacked. We're sensitive. We are sensitive creatures. We are very, very sensitive. All I got to do is say the word ice cream, Tom. And your favorite ice cream, Tom.
Yeah.
And start talking and get you thinking about your favorite ice cream, which is what's your favorite?
I'll say cookies and cream.
Cookies and cream. Two scoops right in front of you, Tom. 2 scoops of cookies and cream.
I'm smiling already.
Your physiology is tracking with me over the phrase ice cream. It's just tracking. It has to do that way. So a lot of purchasing truth has to do with messaging. And Witch Hunt is a great example of that thing that is similar to ice cream now. Why the Democrats did not file for impeachment? So clearly it was a witch hunt. Why didn't they do it earlier? Why are they waiting now? It's like, oh my gosh, it just gives more time for him to cultivate any narrative he would like.
Yeah, it's talk about a bad situation. But honestly, the media is not helping. I mean, across the board, they're not helping. And it's because they keep going after the facts. They say, well, now the president says they don't have to turn over the whistleblower complaint, which is not in fact true. The law says this. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the truth is if you don't approach it in a different way. It's just another tick on the 10,000 plus lies he's said over the years he's been president. What's one more?
He just plants the seeds. He's just gonna plant the witch hunt seed and water it. He just plants the swamp. These people are swamp people. Meanwhile, it's like, you've got the most underskilled people ever in the leadership roles. They meet the need for loyalty.
Yeah.
But at the expense of, that's where the media can make a, it's not about, I don't want the listeners to really think that it's you and I versus them, that this is a Republican bashing thing, because it's really actually not.
I agree.
It's actually what this narrative is saying, how language is being used by a certain group of people to purchase truth away from the freedom that we have. See, they're purchasing truth so they get to have choices, respect, financial security. They're purchasing truth at the expense of others. Now, we used to give it a nod as Ronald Reagan came in and Bush 1 and Bush 2 and now Trump. We used to push it and go like, yeah, I could see where you're going. Yeah, I guess we'll allow rich people to have that. I guess we're gonna pass the Citizens United. I guess we're gonna pass this thing and they gave a push to rich people that, yeah, if I were rich, I would like to have more of my money too. So maybe one day when I'm rich, I'll get to have the advantages. So I'm not going to I'm going to look the other way, because clearly they'll trickle down, won't they? And the answer is, well, no, it's not in their interest. If I give, okay, I'll give $700 billion to the banks, and then we would like them for that $700 billion to give people the loans that they need so they don't go into foreclosure. Did they do that? No. They took the money and they remodeled their own banks.
Right. Well, and the same thing happened with all of the tax breaks for corporations where, oh, they're all going to hire more people. It'll trickle down and produce more jobs. And the reality is, I think it was only about 5% of companies actually did hire more people because they had more available cash. Most of them repurchased their own stock with it, and they just improved their own financial position.
Yeah, they just solidified in there. So they become those companies become a different kind of giant, because we have talked about tricking the giant in the past. They become a different type of giant, and then the giants just start gobbling each other. I mean, Bayer buys Monsanto and rebrands them. It's like, why? Because the giant called Monsanto has a bit of egg on their face.
Right.
So we're going to rebrand them. And what better than a German chemical company?
Yeah.
Anyways, so it's okay. I mean, right now, all I'm doing right now is poking a stick at the giant and saying, oh, by the way, there's a giant over there. Now, can we get scared of these giants? Yes, because sometimes these giants take people out. They do things. But really, when we're an advocate for meeting the need for truth or fairness or these kinds of things, we want to really come back to what the community will do, because the community, when cultivated in a direction, like in Hong Kong, 1 million people will walk down the street and saying, listen, everybody, they're doing this thing, and this thing is going to adversely affect our freedom. I could see what they're going for to try to have this social measuring system with AI looking at all our faces. It gives us scores, but there's a lot of problem with that system. And there is, because all you got to do is just, first, there's going to be a mistake. That's not me. Right. And then the second thing is, I don't like what that person's doing. I'm going to lower their score. Boy, that sounds like credit reports. That's what that sounds like. What did they do? Oh, that got on the credit report. Oh, it's my dad that died thing got on my credit report. How'd that work? It's like,
you're going to have your personal identity score.
That's right. And that's a little bit about what the credit score is. And why are these things important is that it's important to measure things, but not at the expense of humanity, as well as growth, as well as change, as well as the ability to work your way back out of a mistake. And if something is catastrophic, something happened, you're at a party, you're drinking with friends, you drive home, and something terrible happens. Well, there's an internal price that human being's got to pay for the thing they said or did. And there's an external price as all the people in the car, or let alone if they hit somebody else. the cost that goes into. And does that last a lifetime? Yeah, well, in the person's brain it does. And does it affect somebody else as if the court systems have never executed somebody that was innocent? Just saying.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So it's
Right.
really, so there is catastrophic truth that has a lifelong lasting. And what the community needs to do to rally back and to purchase truth back is start to get to a place of reconciliation rather than waiting for the next news cycle to take place. Reconciliation, then move to action. We're in a phase of reconciliation and a phase of mourning the loss of the people that died in El Paso. We? No, just the people that are there, because the we as a nation have long not thinking about that until the next shooting where we get to do it all over again, because there's no reconciliation and there's no healing and there's really no safety and prevention that's taking place. So it's going to happen again.
Yeah. That's a whole nother subject that I think it would be great to take a little deeper dive into.
Yes. So the community, I'm glad you mentioned that, because the community has got to come and do something about that. The community has got to come and keep showing up there. Because as the community shows up, like climate change, I mean, these big issues that are getting doubt and skepticism thrown in their direction. Because that's really how truth is being purchased right now. It's like, well, what about? It's called whataboutism. What about this? What about that? What about Joe Biden and his son? It's like, what about your sons? Like, they're clean. What about what about your daughter?
Sure.
Well,
I think that would be very useful. I think while it's a hot and and maybe some people might think a third rail topic, I think the reality of guns in America, and the Second Amendment, I think that the NRA has done an incredible job of purchasing truth over the years. And because it's a minority of people that have managed to get our country to the point where we have more guns than people in this country, I mean, among other things. So, but I think it'd be interesting to study a little bit of the NRA and how they purchase truth, but then also, what's happened with all these shootings. Why are we allowing this to happen as a country? And, where are we with the language and the communication and maybe lack of cooperation? Again, I think we'd find a lot of parallels to some of the other things we've been discussing.
Yeah, I think so too. And so it'll be interesting next time when we come back, Tom, to take a look at how an individual's rights over the community's rights is being met, and that individual's rights I get to own and exercise this, and it's allowed to be against a community.
Right.
And the community has to suffer because we value individual rights so much higher than community rights. See, community rights have got to shift. Individual rights have got to be just a little bit behind that. Wait a minute, I'm going to say it more dramatic. For our species to survive.
Yeah.
Once it shifts to the community's rights, just a little bit behind the individual rights. And we got to get that dance, because sometimes the individual rights will pop their head up a little bit more, but the community rights have got to lead just a little bit more, because then we're not in a collaborative space. We're in a reductive space. Our economy will keep getting narrower and narrower, which it's doing because technology is making it narrower and narrower. There's going to be a bunch of machines eventually that only a few people are going to be able to fix, because no one's being trained to fix them.
Sure.
I mean, I'm making a global sentence there. There's many people being trained to fix them. But the mindset of, if you lose this group of people, the community will fall apart. And then all of a sudden you got this machine that nobody knows how to run. Yeah. So
Very, very interesting to think about the proportionality of the community versus the individual. I like that, and I think that
let's
that
pick
is
that
very
up.
much related. That maybe that's the key, right?
Yeah, the truth versus the truth, purchasing truth, the balance between community needs and individual needs. I think that's our
I
next
like it.
podcast.
I like
The
it.
balance between those two, because that's really where the media's got to lean on next. Well, it looks like the president is meeting his personal needs ahead of the needs of the country. Gosh, it seems like the president is meeting his need for respect by saying and making that choice. Boy, that's similar to what King Louis did, right in France. Look at how similar that is to what oh gosh, I have his Mussolini did in Italy. Isn't this interesting that the similarity between that choice and the choice that Trump made?
That should be quite illuminating. All
Yeah, I
right, Bill.
guess. Okay, anyways, Tom, it's been a lot of fun. More to come, okay?
All right, I look forward to it.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.